Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video we're going to finish off on this unit sold prediction. So basically we just calculated using some date functions how to figure out the number of days in a month and to figure out how far into a particular month we are. Now for the prediction. Now I only need to calculate a prediction if it is the current month. So I'm going to head over to my prediction column and work on May. Equals if. Now if the month of this particular row is equal to the month of my current date, then something's going to happen. I'm going to do a prediction. Well, what I'm going to predict is I need to take the number of units sold divided by the number of days in the month, which we know is going to be day of the current date. So the number of units sold divided by the days in, that's going to give me that little number of 0.6, I believe it was, 0.6 units sold per day. Now I'm going to take that number and multiply it by the number of days in May, which we can use our days function. The days, the next month, comma, the current month. So let's check this out. My value if true, I'm basically taking the number of units sold for the days that have passed and multiplying that by the number of days in that particular month. Now, to be sure that this formula gets constructed properly, I'm going to use parentheses to contain the two parts. There we go. In fact, I'll put a set around these as well. There we go. And then comma, actually, there should be a comma right here. Now for the value of false, that's going to be the nested if. So I'm just going to put a note to ourselves here, nested if. And that'll be the if function. And so I can see the prediction for May is 18.6. Let me autofill this down and autofill this up. So for the current month, we're going to figure out how many units have been sold for the number of days that have passed, and we're going to multiply that by the number of days in that particular month. Otherwise, it's a nested if. Now, if the month is in the past, then the prediction is simply going to be equal to the number of units sold. If the month is in the future, there's going to be no prediction because we haven't sold anything. It's in the future. So the nested if is going to look at those two scenarios. So if today's date is greater than the month day, well, if it's greater than, then the date is likely in the past. So for that, the value of true, I'm just going to use the units sold. So for instance, in May 5th, April units sold of 14. Well, the prediction is 14. The prediction should match up the units sold. Otherwise, I'm just going to do blank. I've already got my closing parentheses there. I'm going to press enter. That doesn't change May, but I can autofill this down. And we get blank for the future. And for the past, we get our actual units sold. So just to kind of recap that, I have a parent if statement. If the month of the row is equal to the month of today's date, well, in that case, we're going to figure out how many units sold, what is the number of units sold per day, taking into consideration the days into the month, multiplying that by the number of days in the month. But then, if it's not the current month, we're going to look and see if today's date is greater than the monthly row. If it is, then we're simply going to put in the number of units sold. Otherwise, we'll put in a blank. And that's going to allow us to do a prediction. Of course, in the past, the prediction matches up with the units sold. In the future, there is no prediction. No units have been sold. But for the current month, there we go. Now, to make this live, what you would really do is instead of typing in a date, you would put in a today function. And that would display whatever the current date is and work this out as necessary. Now, since I just changed it to the real date of December 12th, 2018, you notice that, okay, pretty much everything should match up with whatever my units sold have been, since I had so many zeros. So let me just go ahead and throw in some numbers here. But now when we get to December, and of course it's mid-December, I could put in a number like 10, and the prediction is going to be over 20 because I'm not quite halfway through the month yet. So that is the unit sold prediction calculator. Have fun with that, and don't forget, look in the video description for a sample.